We're still in 2 Corinthians. Today, we're in 2 Corinthians.
Guys, we just turned the air on because it was sort of hot and stuffy in here, so let us know if you get too cold.
This right now feels
There's a lot of people.
We're in 2 Corinthians 4, 7 to 10. What is Corinthians? It's a church. And where is the church at? Corinth. Okay, where's Corinth? I never asked you this. Where's Corinth at?
It's between Turkey and Greece.
It's in Greece, yeah. It's kind of in Greece. This thing that we're reading here, what is this? It's a letter, right? Who wrote the letter?
Paul.
Paul wrote the letter to the Corinthians, okay? And this is 2 Corinthians, meaning that he already wrote one to them, right? So it's the 2 Corinthians, it's the second letter that he wrote to them. Okay, we cool? All right. Now this section is something that you've heard before, but I'm going to read it to you anyway, and then I just want to talk about, unpack it a little bit. So we're in 2 Corinthians 4, 7 through 10. He says, "Treasure is kept in clay jars. In the same way, we have the treasure of the good news in these earthly bodies of ours. That shows that the mighty power of the good news comes from God. It doesn't come from us. We are pushed hard on all sides, but we're not beaten down. We are bewildered, but that doesn't make us lose hope. Others make us suffer, but God does not desert us. We are knocked down, but we are not knocked out. We carry around the death of Jesus in our bodies. In that way, the life of Jesus can be shown in our body." Okay, so it starts out talking about treasure is kept in clay jars, and then it kind of talks about us as being clay jars. Do you think Paul really thinks people are clay jars? No. Okay, what is the statement? It's when he says that people are like clay jars, it's kind of like I always tell you. If I told you, and it may have happened here in Southern California, if I said to you that it's raining cats and dogs, right? Does that mean if you went outside there'd be dogs and cats falling out of the sky? It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor, and it means if it says raining cats and dogs, it means what?
Raining hard.
It's really raining hard, okay? So in the same way, Paul here is saying that each of us is like a clay pot. He doesn't think that you're a clay pot, but he says you are a clay pot. You're like a clay pot.
Molded, or is it say pot to be caked and molded?
Right. Now the thing is it's interesting. If you were to go to Isaiah, I don't want you to go there right now. I'll write it on the board. So a lot of our Bibles don't have the Old Testament in it. But if you go to Isaiah 64:8, there's a famous verse in there that says that you are the potter, we are the clay. So it's kind of saying that God, the psalmist is, or the Isaiah is saying that God is like a potter, and we are like clay. Right? We are like clay. Now think about all the things that are made out of clay that you can think of. What kind of stuff do you have around your house that's made out of clay?
Like
Pots, what else? Dishes, bowls, what else?
The little box you used to get your sanitizer, your soap.
Okay, that stuff, those little things, yeah.
figurines.
A vase, what? Figurines, right? So who decides what it looks like that's made out of the clay?
The kicker.
The person who's making the clay, or who's making the thing out of the clay, right? Okay, let me ask you a question. Those of you guys who have, like, somebody said, or Kelly said, the little thing that you pump to put the soap on your hands, right? When was the last time you were in the bathroom and the little soap thing said, you know what, I really don't want to be a soap thing, I'd rather be a dish. Could you make me I don't want to be a soap, I'd rather be a dish. Right? Or how many times have you had like a pot that's just used for, I don't know, collecting garbage or something? And the pot looks at you and said, you know, I'd much rather been a figurine. You know what I mean? People will pay money for a figurine, and your name doesn't happen to be Hummel, does it? You can make something a lot nicer. No, the potter decides what the clay is going to be made of, or what's it going to be made into, right? And we look around the room here. There's a lot of different kind of looking pots around here, right? I got some pots that look like ladies, and some pots that look like men, right? Some pots have skin of one color, some pots have skin of another color. Some pots have a lot of hair, some pots don't have so much hair. Well, listen here. Now here's something else. You listening? Some pots are really beautiful. Have you ever seen a pot that was made and it's just incredibly beautiful, right? But other pots are not as beautiful, right? Some pots you look at it and you say, that's an incredibly beautiful pot. But other pots you look at it and they're just not so beautiful.
But yeah, like some pots that I made with clay,
they didn't turn out so hot?
No.
Okay, well.
That's all right, you were learning.
Yeah, you're learning, whatever. But so pots have different kinds of looks, different kinds of characteristics. And some pots can do some things, and some pots can't do things. Right? So if I have a coffee pot that's actually made out of clay, right? And that's a pretty cool thing. I can actually make coffee in it, I can pour tea in it, whatever, right? But if I have a pot or a clay vessel that like once again the Kellys talked about was for squirting soap on my hands to wash my hands, that wouldn't be very good for making coffee. You know what I mean? Or imagine you came into my bathroom and...
I said the pumping of the soap. She said a vase.
Well, whatever. Imagine if you went into my bathroom, right, and for washing your hands I had a coffee pot. You'd say, that doesn't really make any sense, right? So God makes us with different purposes. We look around, people have different shapes, people have different qualities, right? They're all made with different purposes. But the potter is the one who decides. The potter is the one who's in charge. But he's talking about something different here, really. He's not even talking about the way the pots look, right? He says here, treasure is kept in clay jars. Now, back in the day, they didn't have, like, you know, Tupperware and plastic bags and stuff like that. If you wanted a pot to put something in, you made the pot out of clay. And then it dried in the sun, and now you got something to put in the pot, right? If I held up a pot that was a clay pot, could you know what was in it?
No.
By looking at it, you'd have no idea.
It's not glass.
It's just a clay pot, right? So you have no idea what's in that pot just by looking at it. But it says here that treasure is kept in clay pots. So, I mean, think about this with people, right? There's some people I could look at and they're just beautiful, you know, gorgeous women or really handsome men, and I think, wow, that person looks like there's something special. I wonder if there's something special inside. And then I could look at someone else and I could say that they're not as beautiful as other people that I've seen on the outside. And I wonder if there's something good inside or not. You follow me? You really can't tell what's inside the pot from the way the outside the pot looks. Right? And there could be something, I could have, it's kind of like, remember Price is Right? Right? Where they would show you something and it may not look so cool, but it might have something amazing inside it. Right? Because you couldn't tell by looking at the outside. Or you could look at the outside and it looks really cool, and you look on the inside and it's a goat or some goofy thing that they were giving away. Remember that? Never seen when they gave away a goat? So you can't tell the outside. You can't tell what's on the inside by looking at the outside. But this passage here says, treasure is kept in clay jars. In the same way, we have the treasure of the good news in earthly bodies. Now, I could look at you, if you're just standing there, I could look at you and I couldn't tell whether you have Jesus in you or not, right? If you're just standing there. How do I know whether you have Jesus in you?
By the way we act.
By the way we act. What else?
Doing good.
If you do good, how else might I know?
You walk by somebody here, I am the Lord.
Maybe by the things that I might say, might reveal what's inside my body, which is like the clay pot. That would tell me what's inside my body.
How we talk.
How we talk, the words we use, the way we interact with other people, if I'm kind to people or unkind to people. Our emotions potentially might reveal some of that stuff about what's inside our pot. Yeah, Patricia?
By helping somebody.
If I'm someone who helps somebody, that tells me there's probably something good inside that pot. Yeah, your birthday. I know your birthday is coming up. Or just what? Yeah, Jeffrey? You guys want McDonald's? You know, the best thing ever happened to old Linda was getting that McDonald's. I know you love McDonald's. Okay. So when we look at a pot, right, especially the kind of pots that you're talking about here, it's not what it looks on the outside, it's on the inside that counts. And if you think that the most important thing is what's on the outside, guess what? You are wrong. You are wrong. The most important thing is not how the pot looks on the outside. It's what's going on the inside. Now, what is on the inside of people? What are some things that are on the inside of people?
Heart.
That's not what I'm talking about. What is on the inside of people?
So there's some haughty people.
There's some what? Haughty people. Okay, there's some people who are very full of pride about themselves. What else is inside people? Attitude. It could be good attitude or bad attitude. What else is inside people?
Good people.
There could be good things on the inside. You got good people. What else is inside people? Love for others. What else could be inside? What's that, Clint?
Bad people.
There could be bad things inside of people. I mean, we look at the news every night and see the horrible things that are going on. So not everybody's got good stuff going on inside their pot. You know what I'm saying? There's some bad stuff going on in some people's pot. Yeah, Mark.
That 9/11 thing that happened.
Yeah,
That had some very bad things in
there
it.
were people who had bad things going on and do that kind of stuff.
Jeff, that's why I don't watch the news anymore, because I just get
You're tired of finding out what's going on in people's pots. Huh? Don't blame you at all.
I don't watch the news because it's all about crime. I'm tired of it. I never hear anything about good stuff.
The news is depressing. A lot of stuff that's out there. But I'll never forget, remember what Mark said when I was talking about this, about the bad people in the world. Remember, he said the reason that we are here is to tell the bad people about Jesus. That's right, Mark. So all those people are an opportunity. So it says in verse 7 again, it says, so treasures kept in clay jars. What is the treasure that Paul is talking about specifically that's in the treasure? Excuse me. What is the treasure that Paul specifically is talking about in this case that's in the clay pot of the Corinthian people? What does he say it is?
Jesus.
The good news in these earthly bodies of ours that shows the mighty power of the good news comes from God. It doesn't come from us. All right? Remember back in the day, you don't see them so much anymore. You remember back in the day, you used to be able to buy those flower pots that kind of looked kind of like this, remember? And they were made out of clay.
Oh, yeah.
And they weren't really fancy or anything, right?
No.
Right? And when was the last time some of you guys are old enough to remember these, that someone came to your house
Still
and
have them. What do you mean?
looked at the flower growing in your flower pot and said, you know what? That is the most beautiful clay flower pot I've ever seen. Did they comment on the flower pot?
No.
No. They were talking about the thing that's in the pot. The thing that's most valuable is the thing that's in the pot. Right? So people come and you got, your flower or whatever. That's not a very nice thing.
Yeah, they're going to talk about that thing.
The thing that's the most important is the thing that's in the pot. It's not the pot itself. What's that?
Can't you do
I know he's
It's a
very
tough crowd.
smart up in the controlling part.
Now let me ask you a question. If my pot was made out of gold, what would I think was most important? The pot or the thing inside the pot? The pot. I would think the pot was the most important thing. And therefore I would rely upon just the power of the pot and not the thing that's on the inside. What if the pots were made out of steel? Where would the strength come from? Would it come from the thing that's in the pot or from the pot itself? Yeah, the pot itself. You notice how Paul, he talks about us as human beings being like a pot. He doesn't say we're a metal pot, because then we would rely on ourselves for our strength. He doesn't say we're a gold pot, because then you'd say, well, the most important thing, the most valuable thing about the pot is the pot, not the thing that's in the pot. No, he says you are like clay pots. Yes, can I tell you something? Clay is not that valuable. And so almost anything that's inside a clay pot is going to be more valuable than the pot itself. And so the thing that he's saying, he's not saying the pot is not important. He's saying that it's not saying that you are not important. But what he's saying is the thing that you carry around in you is the most important thing And that is who Jesus is and the fact that you have the gospel in you. That's the thing that makes you valuable. Incredibly valuable to the Lord. That you are carrying around the knowledge of Christ. Incredibly valuable thing that you have inside this pot that looks like you. Right? Now the thing I could do is I could have my pot and I could keep the lid on it and whatever, and you try to look at my pot and say, leave my pot alone. Or the thing I could do, I could open my pot so that you could see what is inside of me that is so valuable. And the thing that's inside of me is so valuable is the knowledge I have of Jesus and the knowledge I have of the gospel. So the thing is, I don't want to walk around with my pot closed up. I want to walk around with my pot top off my pot. And I want to do the kind of things people were saying. Talk about the Lord. Help other people. Be kind in the language that I use. And in that way, people say, man, you know, that guy's got an ugly pot, but he's got some good treasure inside that pot. Right? Because that's the most important. Instead of keeping going on to the rest of that, we'll pick up that 8 to 10 next week about kind of Paul's experience about being pushed and beaten down or whatever. But so remember that. I mean, all of us wish we were better looking, or more handsome, or more beautiful, or we're better singers, or we're better whatever. Right?
God made us the way we were.
But God made us the way we are. And can I tell you something? He made you, listen up here, He made you the way you are because He needs pots that look like you. Right? He needs pots that look like you in order to accomplish His purpose. Right? He can't do it without a pot that looks like you. Sometimes people, there's a Bible verse that we talk about in 1 Corinthians 12, where it says the parts of the body that seem weaker. Where people look at some people and they don't like the way their pots look because their pots use wheelchairs or their pots have autism or something like that. Or their pots have glasses. But Paul, once again in that verse, says the parts of the body that seem weaker are indispensable. And that is that we can't do without those parts of the body. They are part of God's plan for people.
That's true.
For His world.
If we didn't have those, we wouldn't be alive today.